Hi there, come on in. It is Thursday night, November 4th, 2004. I'm Zachary Trost, and with Michigan's firearm deer season just 11 days away, Fred will explain a question of law that hunters and landowners will squabble over during the season. I have a Michigan Outdoor News report on the upcoming deer season, along with guides reports on this past weekend's conditions and successes around the state. The county seat of our Fish and Game Hall of Fame is a city you'll recognize because it has the name of a nearby county and not the county that it's in. We have the fastest half hour of news and information about the outdoors in Michigan coming up on this edition of the Practical Sportsman News, so stay tuned.
From the rugged shores and woodlands of the north, it's history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fishery. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around, my friend, and all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can. It tells you all the beauty in the state of Michigan.
The current issue of the Michigan Outdoor News is what you'd expect, a 2004 deer hunting special edition. Editor Bill Parker has a front page article that predicts this year's deer season will be very similar to 2003. DNR deer specialist Rod Clute says, "I know hunters think it sounds like the same old song they've been hearing the past 5 years, but the truth of the matter is that things don't change that much from one year to the next." He says that hunters harvest 500,000 animals each year through all seasons combined, with a fall population of 1.7 to 1.8 million whitetails. That leaves 1.2 or 1.3 million in January, and that many deer are certainly capable of producing 500,000 fawns. The DNR estimates the UP has about 500,000 deer, and the northern lower peninsula, the zone that used to have the highest density of deer in the state, don't have many more deer than the UP, about 560,000. The liberal amount of antlerless deer permits in the northern lower has reduced the population considerably, but liberal doe permits haven't had that effect in the southern third of the state. The DNR estimates the southern part of the state, where most of the people live, is also where most of Michigan's deer now live, about 900,000. You can read detailed reports by the biologists in the 8 deer management units in the news, which highlights information for specific counties. There was an unusual duck hunting incident in Klamath Falls, Oregon. 27-year-old Matt Harper was pulling a boat onto shore when a dog in the boat stepped on a loaded shotgun and, yes, shot Matt in his upper left arm. The blast severed an artery, among other things, and he was in critical condition in Oregon Hospital. A reminder that you can't be too careful with firearms. These and other articles for sportsmen can be found in the current issue of the Michigan Outdoor News.
It was almost a century ago, before Michigan had many hunting regulations, in fact, before we had a conservation department, that a poet named Robert Frost wrote a poem called Mending Wall that included the phrase, "Good fences make good neighbors." Well, that hasn't changed over the years. Quite a few people call me about fences and property lines and neighbors. A guy called me last week about a ticket he got for trespassing. Now, here are the circumstances. He parked his truck on private property owned by a power company. Now, this was a place he had parked in years past because the power company had let the public hunt there for many years. Now, he parked his truck and walked down a 2-track that went to another parcel of private property that was adjoining the power company, and he had permission to hunt there. He parked here because it was convenient. Now, on his way out, he was met by a conservation officer and 2 county sheriffs who told him he was trespassing, that starting this year, the power company no longer allowed hunting there. This guy says, "I'm not hunting here. I was hunting next door." Well, He ended up taking him to his tree stand, and they said they didn't believe that he was hunting there because there was no bait. And they wrote him a ticket for recreational trespass. Well, he called me because he says this was just baloney. He wants to fight it. I told him to go to the legislature's website, look up Michigan Compiled Law 324.73102, which is the recreational trespass statute that he was written the ticket under. And it says, and I'll just give you the pertinent language, a person shall not enter the property of another to engage in any recreational activity without the consent of the owner if, and this is one of two things, A, the property is fenced or enclosed and is maintained to exclude intruders, or, in the alternative, the property is posted in a conspicuous manner against entry. Well, if either of these two conditions exist, it's recreational trespass. Now, he told me that property was not posted, had never been posted, and he took some photographs to prove it. So that's out. Now, what about the fence? He said there was a fence, but it wasn't enclosed because the gates were always left open year-round, and there were openings around the fence for 2 tracks leading on and off the property. Well, he asked me what he should do. I said, well, go to court, plead not guilty, and ask for a trial in front of a judge, not a jury. I said he should print out the recreational trespass statute, take the pictures of the area with him, and show the judge the power company had not complied with the statute, and that means he didn't violate the Recreational Trespass Act. So keep those things in mind if you're a hunter or a landowner. To qualify for protection under the Recreational Trespass Act, you either need signs that are posted according to the statute, or you need a fence that is maintained in a way to keep trespassers out. And there's one more point. The law says under 324.73106 subsection 2 that a peace officer may enforce this upon complaint of the landowner. Now, this is important because a conservation officer cannot legally issue a recreational trespass ticket on private property if the owner doesn't bring a complaint. Now, COs do this all the time, but I've gotten several tickets overturned for hunters or snowmobilers for the reason, or one reason at least, that the landowner didn't bring a complaint. In fact, the CO never even talked with the landowner. So there's things that hunters must abide by, there's things that landowners must abide by, and there's things that conservation officers have to follow as well. The law imposes responsibility on everybody who's involved. Now, whether you're a hunter or a landowner, you should know the Recreational Trespass Act, what it says and what it means. Go to the internet and read the act. We have a link to it on our website. And remember, what's written in the DNR's hunting guide is not the law. It's a summary of some parts of some of the laws. Robert Frost's poem is not the law either, but his line, "Good fences make good neighbors," might as well be law because it's true.
Last week's featured county was originally named after an Indian chief, but was renamed by its Irish settlers in 1843. This week's county is another one of 5 counties named after an Indian chief, but renamed in 1843 by its new settlers. Chippewa Indian chief Conotton lived in this area here on the shores of Lake Huron, known as Conotton County until 1843, when it was renamed Iosco. The county seat was named after Chief Ottawas, and his name remains on Tawas City in East Tawas. The first white men to the area were French trappers and traders who set up shop along the Au Sable River in the early 1800s. The Au Sable is Michigan's longest river that has its headwaters up here around Grayling, and in the late 1800s, the Au Sable was a major highway for floating logs down to Oscoda, where the Au Sable flows into Lake Huron. This was a key distribution point for shipping lumber on the Great Lakes. The Lumberman's Monument is located on the banks of the Au Sable in the Huron National Forest, and it stands as tribute to the river rats who moved the timber down the river. Henry Schoolcraft came up with the name Oscoda from the two Indian words Ossen and Muscoda, meaning pebbly prairie. Not for the town of Oscoda, which is in Iosco County, but for Oscoda County, which lies to the northeast. The Au River is legendary to trout fishermen, as well as to marathon canoeists who began the longest non-stop canoe race in North America on this river back in 1947. The 120-mile race starts at 9 p.m. and winning times have ranged between 14 and 21 hours.
Water is, we have a sea of canoes and people trying to put their canoes in right in front of us, 20 feet away. Some of the paddlers having problems even finding a spot to put their canoes in. There's Matt Smith, Bob Stockton looking for a spot for their canoe. Here come the paddlers that were in the final rows, making their way to Ray's Canoe Livery. There's Al Whiting and Jerry Kellenbach making their way right in front of us looking for a spot for their canoe.
The Huron National Forest occupies over a third of Iosco County. Add to this the miles of Lake Huron shoreline and the fishing holes along the Au Sable River, and you have a county that produces its share of entries to our Fish and Game Hall of Fame. If you found this week's County Facts interesting, tune in next time because we're going to feature Alger County.
You sure look happy there in that picture.
Yeah, I was happy.
And you're not wearing rubber gloves.
No.
And that is a bowfin, not your average bowfin. I mean, a big bowfin is 6, 7, 8 pounds. This is almost 14 pounds. Came out of Portage Lake, Manistee County, which, oh, look at that. Look at the smile on Laura Turner's face. Laura's from Langsburg, just enjoying the heck out of that. What did you do with it?
Oh, the guy that we went with, which is Gordon's from up to bait shop, he's getting it mounted.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, that'll be an interesting mount. They got a set of teeth on them, and they fight like crazy, don't they? Now, what about this one?
This is a steelhead I caught. And I caught a bass and a walleye.
Well, you had a bang-up year.
Yeah. Plus,
And where were these? What lakes?
These were in Oscoda.
Well, very good. So, you've been fishing all your life?
Yes, sir.
Did you eat any of these?
We ate the raw.
Good for you. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Laura Turner from Langsburg has a potpourri of fish. Well, this has to be an easy hunt down in Washtenaw County. All they got is big buck down there.
It's the only one I saw that day.
Really? Connie Ledwidge from Pinckney. This is a 7-point buck, which is huge, and obviously your first one.
My first buck, my first shot at a deer. I got him in one shot.
Were you calm?
I was. I remember everyone saying, don't get buck fever, don't get buck fever. And then I got it after I shot him.
Wow.
I'm a beginner economical hunter. I borrowed a hunting shirt. My aunt gave me one, and I borrowed my friend's gun and went by myself.
Had you hunted before by yourself?
Nope.
So you just charged out there? Why?
I'd been thinking about doing it for a long time.
And there's no stopping you.
I finally felt prepared. I sighted in the gun in October and at 100 yards, and then I got this deer at about 50 yards. I actually did have my own buck knife, though, that I bought 2 years ago, and hoping that I would someday get to use it. And
Now, where did you said you're prepared. Did you field dress this deer yourself?
yes, they helped me do it, but I got most of it by myself.
Most of it.
Yeah.
I know what part you didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Huh?
You're right.
Yeah. Well, good deal. Connie Ledwich, what a trooper. Way to go. Congratulations. You might be wondering, how do these people get to tell their hunting and fishing tales on this show? Well, we videotape all of the stories for the year at our Fishing and Hunting Awards banquets in March. To qualify for the banquet, you need to qualify for a Practical Sportsman Hunting or Fishing Award. Now, each species of fish has a minimum length requirement. And for a deer, a buck can qualify by meeting one of 3 minimum requirements. You only need one. One is antler points, like this one. If it has 10 antler points, it's in. Or an antler point called a tine, if one of these is at least 10 inches tall, it's in. That means a spike buck just has 2 points, that can qualify. Or if you don't have 10 points or you don't have a 10-inch tine, then measure the maximum outside spread. If it's at least 18 inches wide, it's in, even if it's a 4-point or 6-point. That's 3 ways to qualify, and these are the minimums that we use for picking the hunters to appear on Big Buck Night, which is coming up on Michigan Public TV stations on Thursday, December 9th, 8 o'clock to 9:30 p.m. It'll be live from the studios of Channel 56 in Detroit. Now it's your turn. Sean Peralta from White Lake forwarded a part of a Time magazine interview with H. Lee Scott. He's the CEO of Walmart, who was asked, "You recently said that hunting is leveling off. What are the guys doing?" And Scott answered, "They're like us, spending more time working. What we're seeing is that people are doing things at home and investing in their home. The increase in video games indicates that for more and more kids, their experience isn't going to be around fishing or hunting. It's more about doing things by themselves." And regarding my ongoing complaint that hunting and fishing laws are too complicated, a fellow named Brian said, "Seems to me that COs are using wide discretion with vague laws to the sportsman's disadvantage. I was told that all fish and game violations are criminal violations that can result in a maximum fine of $1,000 and 1 year in jail. Some of these vague laws should be decriminalized." Walt Merrick from Canton wrote, "I recently purchased the Hunting Channel, and to be blunt, it makes your show seem lame. I still tune in to see information on the happenings in Michigan, but maybe you should spend less time on the law and show more footage of actual hunting and fishing in our fine Michigan woods and streams." Well, regarding the law that protects landowners from liability if someone gets injured who they allowed to hunt or fish on their land, William Weiss from Fort Gratiot asked, "Where can I get a copy of that law? I tell people about it and they look at me like I'm crazy." Now, you don't need to be a pro, just a hunter with a deer camp and a video camera. Have a good weekend getting ready for the deer opener. Zachary and I want to see you back here next week for the fastest half hour of news and information for Michigan sportsmen. See you then. Oh, an opening day buck of how many points?
10. They're calling it a 10.
21-inch spread, 11.5-inch tines. That's huge. This is a heavy rack, too. A lot of bone there. And let's see, that was private land.
Yeah.